Welcome to Inner Light, where soul meets self in the dance of deep transformation. Today's guest, Daphne Michaels, is a human potential expert, best selling author, and ultra consciousness guide. With roots in behavioral science and a lifetime dedicated to energetic landscape of human evolution, Daphne helps us break free from ego's grip and step into elevated awareness. If you have ever felt that there's more to who you are, this episode will help you meet the truth face to face. Welcome to the show, Daphne. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you so much, Anya. It's wonderful to be here.
Mhm. So, Daphne, your work dives into what you call the anatomy of a person. What does that actually mean in everyday terms?
Energetic anatomy is really an interesting topic. It is all about who we are on a spiritual basis. So we have our physical body, and then we have our light body. And for people who are on the path to evolving consciousness, we realize that the universe is made up of matter and energy. But at its very, very, very core, it is pure energy. So when we start looking at energetic anatomy, we are recognizing ourselves as pure energy. And there's an actual map of our psyche that we can understand and we can follow in terms of understanding who we are on this very, very, very deep spiritual basis.
Mm-hmm. Right. And how can understanding the energy structure help us escape ego's repetitive patterns?
It's a great question. And so when we begin to understand energetic anatomy, we begin to understand that we have different places inside ourselves from which to live from. So, one of those places is ego, and it is an actual energetic location in the psyche. And that location gives us a defense structure. So the ego actually protects the deeper energy. It protects our deeper self from being harmed by the complexity of life, the trauma, the drama, the suffering, everything that is going on in the world that could hurt us, or even in our own world that could hurt us at a very deep level. The ego structure is there to support us. However, we become crystallized there and we begin to live our life from this very shallow, defensive place. And when we do that, we lose track of our own spirit. So, our spirit, which is in a deeper location inside ourselves, needs to be able to shine through that ego. So, when we develop ourselves energetically through the chakra system, through energetic practices such as meditation, mindfulness, we're actually literally relaxing that ego structure so that we have access to that deeper part of us. And from that deeper part of us that we recognize as our spirit, as our authentic self, as the part of us that really wants the best for ourselves and everyone else, we begin to recode our ego so that our ego is now supporting our higher self.
That's such a refreshing reframe. Our energy isn't abstract, it's a navigational tool. I think listeners will love this shift.
Wonderful. It's absolutely true. Our energy is not abstract. It's not an It's not an idea. It is an absolute navigational tool, and it is an experience. And not only is it an experience, but it's the experience we need to cultivate to be free to live out our life purpose, to live out our higher self, to stay connected to the universe, to really move our humanity toward oneness.
Absolutely. And you speak about tapping into elevated awareness at will. Is this a skill anyone can develop, or does it require a certain spiritual discipline?
I believe that anybody can develop their higher state of consciousness, which is a light body, energetic body, dominant way of living. So rather than living in the old way of feeling trapped and feeling limited and feeling despair, it is possible for anybody to break through ego's grasp and develop their higher self energetically. However, I will say that it's difficult to do without guidance. And the reason it's difficult to do without guidance is because it can be a challenging journey. The ego is filled with trickery. The ego will do anything to keep us protected. And the minute it thinks that we are going to put ourselves out there and we are going to make ourselves vulnerable, it is going to do everything to pull us back. So the minute that people step onto this path, they are in a journey to to take command of their ego, which is no small journey. However, with the right guidance, anybody can learn how the ego is going to try to keep us small and become wiser than the ego. There's a lot of ways, and well, for instance, in community, the energetics of community can support the individual in breaking through to higher states of consciousness. That's just one example of if you're on this path all by yourself, not to say that it's not possible, but you don't have as much energetic support and you don't have the guidance that you often need to understand what's happening when you're trying so hard, but you're not making progress.
Makes sense. And what's a practical way to begin this connection with our higher self during chaotic movements?
So the journey to begin our connection with our higher self, is that what you're asking?
Yes, like a practical way how we can actually start.
Okay, sure. So the practical way to start is to tune into your deepest truth. And if you're trapped in a belief system that you don't have what you need in life, that you're not supported, I think a lot of people who get trapped by the ego get trapped into thinking that they're not loved, they're not appreciated, they don't belong, they don't have anything to offer, and they don't and they're not getting what they need out of life, and they become victims of their ego. So there's a whole victim mentality that the ego loves, because if the ego can make us feel like a victim, we will never break through to our higher self. So I think the very first place to start is let go of those ideas. Begin a new day. And with this day, say to yourself, I am connected to the universe. I am ready to embody my higher self. I am going to live my deepest truth, which is to embody who I really am. And that's the place we have to start. We have to say, ego, you've been keeping me trapped for a long time, and I'm ready to go deeper into my truth. And you see, what will automatically happen is that we'll remember times in our life when we had that connection. Maybe we had that connection when we were walking through nature, because nature is a very high vibration. And just being around nature is going to help the ego relax and help the higher self come forward. So, and maybe we had that experience at a time when we were young. So we will begin to remember who we really are. And when we remember who we really are, we have to look at the gap between who we really are at a very deep level, where we do feel connected to the universe, where we do feel connected to life, where we do want to experience love and success in our lives. Once we get connected there, then we have a way to say, this is home base. This is my home base. This other story that I tell myself, I'm lost in an illusion, but I know the truth. So the very first step on a practical level is to tap into your deepest truth. And then there are vibrational exercises that you can do to shift the frequency of your body, the frequency of your mind, the frequency of your heart, to allow your light to shine through. And those exercises are often meditation, mindfulness, prayer. I teach a practice that's about calibration. So that's when we basically just tune into a vibration that gives us a sense of freedom. So maybe that vibration is from the ocean, and we don't have to be at the ocean to experience it, because we can do this through space. We can tap in to locations that we are not currently at, because vibration is outside of space. It's non-local. So we can tune in anywhere. One of the places that I love to tune in is starlight, because starlight gives us a sense of purity, and it takes us beyond the stories of Earth. It takes us beyond our own stories, and it taps us back into a vibration at our own frequency, where our own personal frequency can resonate as a reset. So those are some practical ways to begin shifting our vibration to a higher frequency, so that we can begin the process of embodying our higher self and living out our greatest potential.
That reminder that awareness is a muscle we can build, that's powerful, especially in a world obsessed with quick fixes.
Absolutely. Awareness. I love that you said awareness, because that is the evolution of consciousness. The evolution of consciousness and ultra consciousness is becoming aware that there's more than the little box of the trauma and drama that is happening in our world and in our and I'm not trying to dismiss it at all. It's huge. There's a lot happening. However, our consciousness can break free from being trapped in it and being injured by it. Our consciousness can go to a higher state where we see it for what it is and we begin to live in the solution. What are we going to do to bring more love to the planet? What are we going to do to create unity consciousness? We know that this is the way we're meant to live. We're meant to live united. We're meant to live connected. And so these are the questions of our times. And every single one of us can be on this journey to be part of the solution.
100%. And what does it truly mean to cross a threshold into a new era of potential? How do we know when we are standing at that edge?
Great question. So, crossing a threshold to a new era of potential means that we have enough of an experience of momentum in our consciousness. So, for instance, it is a felt experience to raise our vibration. We can shift our mood, we can shift our perspective, we can let go of ways of thinking and ways of behaving that do not support us. And when we do this, we feel a natural high. And the natural high is a sign that we have enough universal energy moving through our psyche and our body to really experience quantum leaps and quantum jumps. I say quantum because that's the world of energetics. Quantum is what we can't see, but we know it exists because we can feel it. So we're entering into an era of quantum awareness. And we know that we're entering into this era because we're doing our own work to let go of old ways of thinking, old ways of being, old ways of feeling stuck or trapped, and jumping onto a wave of potential that is quite magical. This is where things happen, where we're speaking our lives into existence. And I've been teaching this for 25 years, so I know how powerful it is to step onto a path where we're leaving our old ways of being behind and we're embracing an ultra conscious journey, and people's lives transform in remarkable ways. And that's what it means to step into this new era.
Definitely. And what stops most people from stepping through it? Fear, familiarity?
So, can you repeat the question? I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch it.
Mhm. I was just saying that what stops most people from stepping through it? The threshold? Is it fear or is it familiarity?
So, I think it's belief. I think it's belief. So many times people have said to me early on the journey, they've said to me, how do I know this is true? Because it sounds kind of like fantasy, that we can develop a light body, we can develop our consciousness, that we are connected to the universe, that we can embody our higher self here on the planet. For some people, they just can't believe it. And so people have said to me, how do I know it's true? And I've said, is your life changing? And they said, "Oh my gosh, absolutely. My life is changing in so many ways." And I said, "That's how you know it's true, because when you live this way, your life changes." And so I think, but I will say that the other reason that people stop themselves is because they're afraid to change their life. They're afraid to, it's like, "Oh my gosh, what will my life really look like? Does it mean I'm going to be leaving my work? Am I going to, like, what am I leaving? What am I going to lose in order to embrace this higher dimension?" And what I have seen more often than not is that people do let go of things in their life, but they only let go of things that they need to let go of. That they're that that they're the thing about this journey is that this is a journey of self-mastery. So we're not going to destroy our lives if we have self-mastery. Self-mastery is about discernment. Self-mastery is about command over ourselves and making the right choices for ourselves. So I think people think that they're just going to get onto this wave and they don't have any control anymore, that their life is going to change in ways that maybe they don't want. But it's really not true. This is a wave of potential for us to make the choices about what we want and what we don't want. The more we believe that it is possible, that the higher our state of consciousness will go. But even if we don't fully believe it, this process still works in a lot of ways.
Mhm. And that image of a threshold is deeply symbolic. Many of us feel it but don't always know how to name it or trust it.
Exactly. Yes, we do feel it. We feel like there's something on the other side of something that we don't have a connection with, but we know it's there. And that threshold is into universal connection and universal potential. And it is real and it is there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And tell us about the five fields of human potential. How do these fields interact and why is it essential to navigate all of them consciously?
Thank you for asking this question. This is my core model that I teach. And my belief is that these fields actually correspond to the dimensions of quantum physics. And in quantum physics, there are actually 11 fields or 11 dimensions that come with the model of quantum physics. And so the first five in my model are the ones that I focus on. I know there's another six, but they're more abstract. But the first five, I think every single person should understand that we actually are shifting into different dimensions. We're shifting into different states of consciousness. So when we elevate our consciousness, we are literally in a dimension that can access greater potential. So that's why I call them the five fields of human potential, because each field that we shift into gives us access to a different kind of potential. So the first field is what we're very aware of. And we might not think that there's potential in the first field because there's a lot of shadow potential in it. And the first field is the trauma and drama of life. The What we see on the news, what we hear when people are talking about the world these days, the experience of anxiety, the experience of depression, the experience of fear and loss and despair. All of this is within a certain field of experience. And that field is extremely dangerous to the psyche because it keeps people in a constant state of terror on some level. And people are their nervous systems are absolutely impacted by living in that field, feeling like they don't have any power. So the potential of that field is horrible, right? It has the potential for planetary destruction. It has the potential for everything that is horrible in life. So we don't want to live in that field because there's nothing that we can do about it other than finding a way to a higher solution. So it's not like we leave the world, but we expand our awareness. The second field, which is a higher state of consciousness, is reached when we are in a protected environment. Some people find this in a sanctuary. Some people find it in their homes. Some people find it with friends. Some people find it in a therapeutic process or in a spiritual community. A second field is where we relax the ego and we're able to tap into the higher dimensions of sacred experience. And we need to spend more time in the second field to be able to bring our spirit through and develop our light body and have our nervous system not so overactivated all the time. The third field is when we are well enough and whole enough and empowered enough and elevated enough to go into the world, but it's on a different level. We go into the world and we experience flow. We connect with people. We have these exchanges. We start building some connections that maybe move us towards solutions. We experience the beauty of life at a higher vibration in the world. And it all has to do with our own vibration because we can get stuck into the first field and feel like everything is horrible. But 10 minutes later, through energetic exercises, we can elevate our consciousness and move into flow, where now we're having these magical experiences and we're meeting people that we need to meet and we're magnetizing and we're creating and we're experiencing ways to create life in a higher way. So that's the third field. The fourth field takes us beyond space. This is where we have that experience of tapping in to locations that are not, that we're not in. Just because we're not at the ocean doesn't mean we can't feel the vibration of the ocean. It doesn't mean that we can't bring that energy into our life in this moment. The fourth field is where we do long distance healing. The fourth field is where people experience prayer. The fourth field is where people experience a connection to loved ones, even though they're not with them in this moment. So that's a really important development in terms of our psychic. And so I'm not talking about psychic in terms of premonitions. I'm talking about the development of our psyche and our ability to tap in fourth field. So, and that can be developed. And it feels somewhat like intuition, but it's more than that. It's experience. The fifth field is timeless. This is where we're in a very high state of consciousness and we're in unity consciousness. We're experiencing a connection with people. Maybe we met them for the first time, but we feel like we've known them forever. And maybe we are connecting with people who are not even on the planet anymore, but there's a timelessness to our connection. That could be authors from a different era, it could be loved ones, but there's a timeless, real, experiential connection. Those are the first five fields. And you can see that the first field has negative potential, and the second field has the potential to connect us with a higher state of consciousness and tap us into universal energy. The third field, the potential is that we're actually able to come together and solve the problems of the first field, because we'll never solve the problems of the first field in the first field. We have to get to a higher state of consciousness where we're tapped into more creativity. And that is the third field. The potential is enormous. Fourth field, the potential is enormous to connect energetically beyond where we are in this moment. And the fifth field, when we connect, we're not only connecting and having a great experience, I believe that knowledge transfers. So when we're reading a book and we're really inspired by the author, and maybe it was a different era, the words on the page are one thing, but what we are receiving is on a whole different level when we tap in fifth field. So the potential of these fields are enormous, and it's really the next steps in our evolution of consciousness.
And that map of potential is eye opening. It's like realizing you have only been living in one room of a vast house.
Absolutely. Isn't it? Isn't it? And we know it because when we're living in the first field, we know that we're trapped. And the ego is the first field. So imagine all of the ways that the ego lies to us, keeps us trapped, tries not to let us think of anything better. Imagine the first field being just the egos of humanity trying to get anything done. There's no potential there. But when we get to the second field, we've relaxed the ego. And now, as individuals, we have the potential to develop our consciousness and our own potential to the point that we can make a difference. We're empowered to be part of the solution.
100%. So, Daphne Michaels invites us into the quiet revolution of ultra conscious living, where ego surrenders to essence and our energy becomes a North Star. If you're ready to embody your I am, expand your field of potential, and finally live beyond limitation, now is the moment to start. Keep shining, keep listening, and let your inner light